I believe that the open source development model is going to be an important factor in software going forward.
If you look over time, Microsoft's commitment to open source has done nothing but grow, and I don't see that changing.
So there's no difference between open source developers and commercial software developers. They're all equal on the Microsoft platform.
I think Microsoft in the past has struggled with understanding how they address open source in their business.
I think there's a real misconception that Microsoft wants everything to be Microsoft, and this homogeneous environment that there's nothing outside of the box that didn't originate in Redmond, Washington.
Before I came to Microsoft, I didn't think Microsoft actually had any commitment to open source. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they didn't.
I'm not surprised that Windows Server runs open source applications. I think that there's a very important need for non-Microsoft technologies on Windows Server platforms. I think it offers us the best of both worlds.
There's a significant number of people who don't realize that Windows servers run PHP very well.
I was a skeptic about everything Microsoft at one point. I changed my mind once I started seeing things change.
I do a lot with CodePlex, and I use a lot of projects that come off CodePlex, things like Enterprise Library and some of the great stuff that Microsoft teams have put out, in addition to all the contributions that come from the community.
Microsoft is committed to open source, definitely.
I do believe that Microsoft is committed to the open source, and has been so for quite some time.
We recognize the fact that most open source users run open source applications on Windows.
Half of our business comes on Windows. It's a big part of the platform, and that's something I've observed at many open source companies that I've been involved with.
It's the dominant platform to target. If you're writing an open source application, it has to run on Windows.
One big advantage of running Microsoft server products is that there are a great number of enterprise applications that are supported on it.
You know, as far as the number of applications, I'm thinking that's probably, it's going to just be ballooning.
We see a lot of the customers that come to us that are on the Windows platform because they're familiar with it, they have it in-house already, they have the skills to administer, deploy it, they understand how to use it.
Windows Server, especially with 2008, is especially easy to manage. You can tell that a goal is to make it easy to manage.
Our platform of choice is WinServer 2008, running with Exchange on top, Exchange Server.
As a .NET developer, I think Windows Server is kind of the platform of choice for that. It's become much better over the years for configuring and managing your .NET applications.
The interoperability of WinServer allows us to work with an open source environment and with the WinServer environment.
The driving force behind the work that we do here at Microsoft, and in particular at the Open Source Technology Center, is just to make the Windows platform available to open source communities.
Microsoft is committed to open source. You can see that by the way they support PHP, their emphasis around open source applications, their support of CodePlex.
If you're skeptical about Microsoft's commitment to open source, then judge us by our track record and let's talk.